You're going up against a goddamn giant green shield. You're gonna lose. Never mind. Hello everybody, how are you all doing? Hope you're having a great day today. Today we'll be looking at the Phalanx, and just like the duck, it took a while before I found something that worked. I'll explain after going over the abilities. His first ability is Shield Up. This lets you deploy an arm-mounted shield that can block most attacks from the front. However, it does limit your movement speed. Luckily, we can still dodge or use our sprint while Shield Up is active, but it does force us to drop the shield. The second ability is Shock Pulse. This ability stuns nearby enemies after a short wind-up animation and causes enemies that melee you to be dazed. Affected enemies also receive a damage over time debuff. This ability can be altered by using specific perks in the perk grid. And lastly, the passive is Bulwark. Blocking damage with your shield increases your damage dealt by 3% for 4 seconds, stacking up to 5 times. However, this rarely happens when fighting against the Xenomorphs or the Pathogen. It's more reliable against the Synths. Speaking of which, the Phalanx actually shines when fighting against the Synths, but against everything else, it's kinda lacking. Hence why I said at the beginning of the video that it took a while before I found something that worked. I also had to wait for Season 3 for a specific perk, but that's beside the point. And that's because the abilities are, well, not great. The shield is pretty meh, and you don't really have a reliable CC ability. Sure, you have your Shock Pulse, and if kitted correctly, you'll also have a slow, but your slow is intermittent, which means it'll only slow down the Horde for a limited time. Technicians have their 3 charged coils, which can slow a large area almost indefinitely. Same with the Doc's Suppression Station, it's just a leave and forget ability. The Phalanx doesn't have that, so we'll need to look at other things to make it powerful. Anyhow, let's take a look at the perk grid. Let's get the obvious one out of the way first, and that is the passive. As you can see, I have nothing attached to it. That's because there are no great perks to attach to. Every perk that you can attach to Bulwark has the clause that you need stacks of Bulwark in order to benefit from them. But you'll hardly get any stacks of Bulwark when fighting against the Xenos or the Pathogen, meaning that for most of your encounters, you'll never proc those perks. Unless, of course, you go out of your way to get hit, which, spoiler alert, isn't a good idea. Not only are you putting yourself in danger of getting swarmed, your allies will need to be careful that they don't hit you. So, don't take any perks for Bulwark and just stick to your teammates. The first ability we're going to take a look at is Shield Up, and I only have one ability attached to it, and that is Shield Bash. Shield Bash briefly stuns an enemy when you hit them with your shield. The stun only lasts for about a second and also has a diminishing return mechanic, so you cannot stun them indefinitely, but it does help when fighting against Prowlers and other Xenos that like to grapple you. Just melee them when they're in range and you're practically safe. It's also a great way to save your teammates when they get grappled, since the stun releases the grappled person. It also synergizes quite well with the perk next to it, which is Down and Out. You deal 20% more damage to enemies that are stunned or knocked down. Shield Bash them and get a free hit in that deals 20% extra damage. It's a win-win. And not only that, but when we take a look at the Shock Pulse, you'll see that I took the Concussion Pulse with me. This ability replacer allows the Shock Pulse to knock enemies down for 3 seconds, which also procs Down and Out for 3 seconds on those targets, allowing you to deal 20% more damage to them. But that's not all, we're also taking Shell Shock with us. This allows Shock Pulse to affect enemies with a debuff that makes them take 10% more damage from all sources for 4 seconds. This means that you deal 30% extra damage on top of your allies also dealing 10% extra damage. And we're not done yet. Since you're at the front of the team, you'll mostly be grabbing the aggro. Sure, there can still be some Xenos that just outright ignore you, but most of the time you'll be taking the heat. That's why we're taking the Take a Stand perk with us. For every nearby enemy, we'll do 3% more damage. This pairs very well with the rest of our perks and abilities. Concussive Blast them for 30% extra damage and move closer for an extra 3. And if the enemy still doesn't want to die, he'll be slowed because we took the Aftershock perk with us. This lets Shock Pulse leave behind an electric field for 10 seconds, slowing enemies that make contact with it. Of course, this means that Shock Pulse becomes our most valuable ability, and because of that, we're taking as much recharge speed as possible with us. With a recharge speed of 53%, our shock pulse only needs 20 seconds to recharge, 10 seconds of which while aftershock is still in play. So every 10 seconds, you'll have an active slow on the field. This doesn't make the Phalanx great, however. Only being able to use your CC every 20 seconds is still pretty bad, but it's the best we've got. Sure, we can lower it even more by taking Quick Charge 3, but it'll only lower the cooldown by another 2 seconds. Do we really want to sacrifice 3 perk grit points for 2 seconds? Personally, I wouldn't. It's better to take something that's more useful, like weapon perks, for example. We're taking a shotgun with us, and the most important stats for a shotgun are accuracy, fire rate, and reload speed. These 3 stats increase our DPS significantly, so we'll be increasing them with these perks. We're taking Technician CQW training for the reload speed and accuracy. The more accuracy, the tighter your pellet spread will be, and the more pellets that hit your enemy, the more damage you'll deal. The reload is a nice plus. Gunner CQW Mastery for the accuracy and fire rate. The faster you fire, the higher your DPS. And Recon CQW Mastery for range and weak point damage. Now, range isn't really great on a shotgun, not gonna lie, but the added weak point damage combined with the accuracy your shotgun now has will make you deal a lot of weak point damage. And as I said, your primary weapon will be the Pump Shotty. It's the best in slot CQW weapon. However, if you want, you can also use the Medvet, the PPZ, or even the Incinerator, but I do highly recommend the Pump Shotty. For your Pump Shotty, go with the Ported Compensator for extra fire rate, Priming Magazine for extra reload speed, and a 30% fire rate buffer 6 seconds on a reload. This procs even when reloading 1 bullet. Be careful though, you need the reload animation to be complete or you'll miss your buff. And for even more accuracy and weak point damage, we're going with Hybrid Sight. These attachments, combined with the weapon perks in our weapon grid, makes the Pump Shotty extremely powerful. You'll be dealing a lot of damage, and that as a class that's designed to be a tank. For the other recommendations, go with the Precision Break, Rapid Dispersal Unit, and Hybrid Sight for the Medvet. Since you only have 2 bullets, you don't really need a fire rate. Recoil Booster, Drop Magazine, and Hybrid Sight for the PPZ. And Flared Breach, Micro Dot Sight, and Polygonal Rifling for the Incinerator. Sure, you can take Rapid Dispersal Unit instead if you want to have a better reload speed. Just know that the Micro Dot Sight actually lowers your fire rate when standing still. That's why I opt you to take Flared Breach instead to compensate. For your handguns, I recommend you take something with a little more range. The Frontier Revolver, Kramer Magnum, and Type 95 Combat Pistol are perfect for this slot. For the Frontier Revolver, go with the Slide Compensator, Rapid Dispersal Unit, and Hybrid Sight. For the Kramer Magnum, go with the Slide Compensator, Drop Magazines, and Laser Sight. And for the Combat Pistol, go with the Slide Compensator, Drop Magazines, and Hybrid Sight. And for Consumables, always go with Cryogrids for most CC, and Vulnerability Assessment Drones for more team-wide DPS. And that is the debuff. Phalanx. It buffs the team, debuffs the enemies, it has the CC, the weapon synergies, it can tank damage, and dish it right back out. Give this build a try and see how powerful it truly is. And thank you so much for watching, and if you like this build and want to see more Aliens Fireteam Elite videos, be sure to like, subscribe, and ring that notification bell so that you never miss another upload. And I'll see you when I see you.